4, and this is where we're going to sketch graphs of linear equations. So let's understand it. First of all, we've learned about the slope-intercept form, so y equals mx plus b. This equation itself is a linear equation, meaning whatever this equation tells you, it's giving you a line. So this equation itself is equal to a line, a specific line that's on a graph. And so the numbers you have in here for m and b give you different lines. For example, y equals 1/2 x plus 1. This equation is going to tell you a specific line. No other line is just like this line here. So we're going to sketch it on a graph eventually, but first we're going to create a table of values. So step 1, when you want to turn this into this, is you make a table. So you write x, you write y, and then what I normally do is I will just pick 3 values for the x. You could also pick 3 values for y, but it's easier to pick x. So for x, I'm going to say 2, 4, and 6. Okay, so on this line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's why I could draw it going so far this way, because I know that all these values will be on that side. Now, step 2 is going to be graphing. So from our table, we can graph. So first one, to figure out y that goes with that x, you just have to solve. So y equals 1/2 x, so we take the x value, which is 2 here, plus 1, that's equal to 2 times 1/2, which is 1, plus 1, which is 2. So when x equals 2, y equals 2. Now let's substitute 4 in for x. When x equals 4, y equals 3. Last one, substitute 6 in for x. When x equals 6, y equals 4. So now we can plug these into the equation. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So when x is 2, 1, 2, y equals 2 as well. When x is 4, y is 3. And when x is 6, y is 4. So as you can see now, it is easy to make a line from these dots. So I just put a piece of paper here, or a ruler works well, and then you can draw the line going in between those points. So technically you only need 2 points, however sometimes when you have only 2 points, the dots are slightly off, and so your line, the slope can shift. So typically 3 will give you a really good slope on there. So step 1 is create your table using these values. Step 2 is you put those points on the graph, and you can draw the line through it. Example 13, it gives us a value, and we're going to make a line for it here. So y equals 3/4 x plus 2. First, let's create the table for x and y. Let's go with a negative number, 0, and a positive number. Remember, you can pick any values you want. So put these into equations similar to this. So y equals 3/4 negative 4 plus 2, which is equal to negative 3 plus 2 equal to negative 1. Y equals 3/4 0 plus 2 equals 0 plus 2 equals 2. y equals 3/4. 4 plus 2 equals 3 plus 2 equals 5. Now notice, you might think -4 and 4 are random. However, the reason we picked them is because when you put them into this equation, it's easy to multiply by 3/4 because the 4's cancel, the 4's cancel. Same as up here, you might have thought 2, 4, 6 was random. However, we are multiplying it times 1/2, so it's easy to say that we get 1, 2 divided by 2. 4, we get 2, 4 divided by 2. So we pick things that are divisible by 2. So you can design it so that you're picking numbers that are easy to graph. Because if you were to pick a 2 or a 1 or anything else, then this fraction would become, well, you'd have a fraction. It wouldn't become a whole number, it would become a fraction. And then you'd have to graph a fraction, so this is just more accurate. Now let's graph this. So we have here, x goes all the way to -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I put my arrow a little far that way. And then it goes up to 4. Y, we need to go all the way from -1 up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here we go. X -4, y is -1. X is 0, y is 2. X is 4, y is 5. And then I can use my paper to draw a line between those points. And there you go. Try that on guided practice 1. Okay, we learned how to graph from a linear equation. Now, let's learn to graph from given m and b. You can actually graph it. So you're not going to have these same two steps. You're going to have different steps. So step 1, when you see that you're given these two things, step 1 is going to be to graph or to plot a point on the y-axis. So plot a point. Now you're given m and b. So given m and b, you could make the equation. Yeah, basically, it's similar to the other one. I mean, instead of, so you're given m and b, so you're given the equation. So step 1 is going to be to plot a point, and you can pick a point from this by, first you graph the line, so the same way we did up here, you graph the line. But if you only plot one point, like say I only wanted to figure out, okay, if x is 0, I know that y is 2. So I only want to plot 1 point. If x is 0, y is 1, 2. Okay, so if I already know that, instead of picking another point and saying 1 plus 2 is 3, you could do that. Or you could just say, okay, the slope is 1, so m equals 1. Well, m equals 1, that means the rise is 1 and the run is also 1. So every time you go up 1 here, you go up 1 there. Every time you go up 1 here, you go up 1 there. So that gives you your line. So basically, you are saying, alright, b is 2. So I'm putting it here on the line. because I know that when x is 0, y is 2. That's the y-intercept. Now, I just take the slope and I decide, alright, let's figure out the rise and the run. So, slope equals 1 over 1 equals 2 over 2 equals 3 over 3. These are all equal to 1, right? So every time it goes up 1, it goes over 1. Every time it goes up 2, it goes over 2. So step 1 is to plot the point of y-intercept, given this. 2 is to use m, this one, to plot the slope. So there's two ways you could do it, linear equation or using your m and b. Try it using this method. Actually, sorry, there's a second example. That was A. Show you B real quick, and then you could try it. B says, graph the equation y equals negative 1/2 x minus 3. Okay, so we're going to pick B as negative 3, and we're going to graph that. So here's our y-axis, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3. And we're going to plot that there. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Now we also have m, which is equal to negative 1/2. That means that this 1 is rise, this 2 is run. It's rise over run. It's negative, so it slopes down. We know these things, so we know that from this point, it's going to slope somewhere down in that direction. So we're going to want to draw more points down here. Sorry, I don't know why I labeled it like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, the rise, how much it goes up, every time it goes up 1, it goes over 2. But if I did it this way, that's like a positive number. And our slope is slopes down. So therefore, the rise is not positive, the rise is negative. So still the vertical motion is up and down. So I come here, and then my run is 2, so I have to go 1, 2, and this is the point that I go to. So these are little points showing that you go down 1 and over 2. I could do it again. I could go down 1 and over 2, and the line continues. It would be the same if you go this way. If you go up 1, that's positive, so going left would have to be negative. Up 1, over 2. There you go. So just know that you could say m is equal to negative 1 over 2, rise, run, if you're going that way, or you could say m is equal to 1 over negative 2, rise, run. Either represents the same number. Go ahead and try that on guided practice 2 and 3. Last, let's sketch using M and a point. Okay, this one's actually pretty similar to what we just did, but our point that we just used was B. So now this point is just not going to be on the y-axis. It could be anywhere else. For example, graph a line with slope 4 that passes through the point 3, 2. With the slope of 4. So if we draw this out, we are going to pick the points and we're going to label it on there. So step 1 is to plot point. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Plotted that point. Now we have to go based on the slope. So the slope is going to be 4 over 1, rise, run, which means that every time I rise 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I run 1. And you could also say it going backwards. You could say it's equal to -4 over -1, rise, run. So when I go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I go left 1. And now all these points will be connected, and that's your line. So step 1 was to plot the point. Step 2 was to use slope to find another point. And step 3 is to draw a line. And that is it. Try that on guided practice 4 and 5.